recognize it as far as the type of language. But the most important thing is to go over the actual physical points that I recognized as far as being where that Jerusalem was actually Edinburgh. And so looking at the maps, both of you, and then the audience will be able to see it very soon when you get it posted, is that southern Scotland is the real location for the region known as Mesopotamia. That this is where the real locations for the ancient kingdoms of Canaan, Assyria, Israel, Babylon, and are located, and all the borders and boundaries of southern Scotland. This is where the true Bible locations for these ancient kingdoms are located at. Here is the map of the 12 tribes of Israel, all inside the borders and boundaries of Scotland. Judea, this map shows here the section and division all laid out in different regions of Scotland. And the Hyperborean Hebrews, or known as the Atlantean Israelite tribes, are Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Gad, G-A-D, Asher, Ishtar, I-S-S-A-C-H-A-R, Zebulun, Z-E-B-U-L-U-N, Joseph, and Benjamin. And they're all laid out in the Scottish landscapes with the mountains of Scotland and the valleys of Scotland as well. All of these 12 tribes of Israel were all located in Scotland, right inside the Scottish territories, the mountains and valleys themselves, where they speak of the 12 tribes of Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Ishar, and Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. I've been trying to tell people that the real city of Jerusalem and the Hebrew Israelite kingdom was and is located truly in Scotland originally, and still is. Edinburgh, Scotland is the real prehistoric, ancient, biblical city of Jerusalem. The entire story of the Bible does not originate from the Middle East. It originates from the ancient prehistoric Scotland. Even the true Israelites, Scottish Milesians, which are M-I-L-E-S-I-A-N-S, are not from the Middle East. They are all part of the western tribes of Aryans, who splintered off in their own groups and tribes, but they also originate from the kingdom of Thule, which was Atlantis, which I knew. Both King David and his son, King Solomon, were red-haired. Red hair is mentioned that is a description of David and his family, that they were all fair-haired and fair-skinned. That was even most of the description of the rest of the ancient Hebrew and Israelites themselves. The city that is so-called the Middle East is not the real city of Jerusalem. That city is not the real holy city, and nor the sacred city of ancient biblical Israel. It is Jerusalem, was in Scotland. The city is not the true and holy name and sacred city of the Hebrew scriptures. This is none other than the fake fabricated city created by Rome and the Roman Empire itself as an embodiment of lies and deceits over the entire eyes of the entire world. Looking at the pictures, Jeff and Jesse, you can see he's showing where Judah and all the Moab, where Mesopotamia was. You can see the original Sea of Galilee, Canaan, and it goes on.
And I will be putting this map up on Telegram right after the show, so everyone can see what you're referencing.
Okay, and please put up all the maps so they can see this. I'm going to get to that in a moment as far as the actual photographs from aerial photographs, which show precisely how it actually correlates exactly to what it should be. And Edinburgh is comprised of two names. Eden is the ancient name, E-D-I-N, one of them, for Eden, E-D-E-N. Okay, and then you also have what is the second half, the second word is Burg, B-U-R-G. That's Germanic, and it translates into city or town. So what you have is the city of Eden. And the answer has been in plain sight, hiding among all the documents, but open to the public. Okay. Going forward, Edinburgh, Scotland is a relocation of the holy and sacred biblical city of Jerusalem. Does that city is in the Middle East was not part of the ancient Hebrew / Israelite kingdom of Israel. It is a known secret fact, a suppressed fact, that the ancient biblical Edinburgh, Scotland, is where the true lands of the Bible is located, as southern Scotland is where the real ancient biblical, i.e. ancient Hebrew Israelite kingdom of Israel, was situated at. The city in the Middle East is not Jerusalem. It is all fake, a Roman fabrication of and a total copy of Edinburgh, Scotland, where the real holy and sacred city of Jerusalem is actually located at. Scotland, Ireland, and England are the ancient biblical history of the British Isles, where the true story of the Bible took place. Scotland is the land of Canaan, Israel, and Mesopotamia. It is the real location of the true kingdom of Israel. Edinburgh is the real city, which I mentioned, and where the land of Canaan is located. The author is good. His research is excellent, but he is a little redundant as far as repetition. Okay. Then he planned on taking a trip, Brandon Michael Keyes in Scotland to 2017, and it will prove that Arthur's Seat, what we know as King Arthur, is a Mount of Olives, and Edinburgh Castle and its moat is the real Temple Mount of the Holyrood, and that's Holyrood, Holyrood Palace, is where the house and the palace of King Solomon once stood. He is a firm believer that of the earthen mounds that are dotted around Ireland and Scotland happen to be real tombs of biblical patriarchs and biblical matriarchs in the Bible. That is correct. They're doing research now, public, that excavations are taking place in both Ireland, Scotland, well, all three, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, and mainland Britain, and they are discovering that those earthen mounds, which we believed were just natural formations, they're actually burial pyramids or burial sites. And the reason being so large is that they were holy sites, and they were respected and honored. So, going forward, I did get an update, and I won't have enough time today to do that update, but we will cover that in the next episode. What he also mentioned is that the ancient prophets of Israel, to all the ancient kings of Israel, they are entombed in those great burial mounds in and around Ireland and Scotland, which I just mentioned. The stone has recently been returned back to Scotland. Okay, that is known as the Stone of Destiny. And Scotland is currently without a ruling king and or monarch right now. That stone itself is still waiting for the next to be crowned upon it. Okay. After the deluge, the ruling tribes of the Aryans returned. These people were historically known as the people of the cat, and the lion is rampant, being their symbol. The popular flag of Caledonia, Scotland, and also of the King of Norway, also anciently countries and part of the Atlantean Thule race. Edinburgh having a very sphinx-like hill. Later it was called Arthur's Seat, which looks just like a lion crouched, and was also known as the City of the Lion, which is the patron saint of Edinburgh, is David. It is pointed out that these authors, that the biblical references to Jerusalem refer to a fertile land full of mines, minerals, crops, with a seaport called Jaffa, Joppa. That exactly fits the location of Edinburgh, not the Jerusalem in Palestine, which has a very distant port called Jaffa, which is Jaffa, rather than Joppa, Joppa. That is over time, that is a replicate. It was replicated, but it's not spelled the same. And this is only to cover this false history of that Jerusalem and the Israelite peoples originated in the Middle East. That is all BS. Okay. Let me see. This portrayal exactly fits the location of Edinburgh, not the Jerusalem in Palestine, which is a very different port, as mentioned. And given the history, that history always favors the victor, not the defeated, then something sure must have gone wrong to make us think that all things we know today about Jerusalem itself. but the records show that Rome built a boundary chain around Jerusalem 80 miles. Indeed, there exists a chain of forts called the Catrail, which is Catrail, that is almost exactly 80 miles. The people of the Cat, or the Gande, which is Gadeni, or the Gad, which is Gad, were the ruling tribes of Jews. And the entire fertile area of Edinburgh and the Lothians, Lothins, was populated by some 1 million people then. A place was biblically recorded to be a hub of civilization. Today, all the Roman signposts have been defaced and deleted for something terribly happened in Edinburgh. I know of one thing, Jeff, is that I haven't covered this before, that is called King Arthur's Comet. In 550 to 560 AD, a gigantic comet came in, and it went right across from north to south, from northeast to southwest, across Great Britain, Scotland, Great Britain, and Ireland, and it literally devastated it was so intense, it devastated. I have an essay on this with photographs, and you'll be able to see exactly what it did. And at that point, there was the ones that did survive, it probably took out 85% of the populations. And the ones that did survive, they emigrated to the mainland Europe, and some went to North America. I'll get into that at a later date. Okay, so that is a fact. It did exist, and a place that was biblically recorded to be the hub of civilization. This was during a time of a serious instability in the Roman Empire, and basically the Jews of the tribe of Gad, which were the Silurians, which is Silurins, revolted, and the retribution from Rome was terrible. There was a massacre of some 80 to 100,000 people by the Roman legions, and the emperor ordered that not a stone remain standing and that salt be placed upon the earth. When you get these pictures posted, Jeff, you will see from the actual photographs, you'll see Arthur's Seat is the real Mount of Olives, and Edinburgh, Scotland is the true city of Jerusalem, whereas Edinburgh Castle is the real Temple Mount itself. And then on the other photograph, the public will see that Arthur's Seat is the real Mount of Olives, and the royal palace of the Kingdom of Solomon below it. That the Edinburgh Castle is the real Temple Mount itself. So that covers most of the pictures, except for the last one, which is an aerial view from, I believe it's a helicopter, where it shows King Solomon's house of the forest of the cedars, which is known as Holyrood Palace, and that's Holyrood Palace. And then it's basically showing where Lebanon existed. But when we get into part 2, they're going to see that all of the surrounding ancient cultures / civilizations existed between the Irish and the Scottish and the British Isles itself, every one of them. Okay, going on, you have is that, which I've read, and I have 3/4 of one of his books, Commons Beaumont, book detailed that the map of Edinburgh / Jerusalem as it was then, the citadel being Edinburgh Castle on the impregnable rock of 3 precipitous sides, more aptly conforms to biblical descriptions than our current understanding of the citadel in Jerusalem today in Palestine. The Dung Castle, Dung Gate, corresponds with the Cowgate in Edinburgh. The Temple Mound on the way to God, Edinburgh's Royal Mile, which we'll get into a later date. It's very complicated. It's mathematically technical. At the Temple Mound, there stands St. Giles Cathedral and a commemorative heart in the cobbles outside, which signify the heart of the Lothians, and that's Lothins. Opposite St. Giles on the Temple Mount, the Law Courts. One of the oldest Masonic lodges also stands near the Royal Mile, whilst the Mount of Olives was Arthur's Seat. Golgotha, which is Golgotha, was Gogar, Gogar, and the Holyrood Palace was a palace of cedars, and Joppa, Joppa, has always been a port in Edinburgh. The broad estuary upon the Edinburgh stands the city of Lion of the Gad, of the sovereign tribes of the Jews. It is called the Firth of Forth, and that's Firth, and then OF, and then FORTH. Translates as the way of ways. And this crossing of a broad estuary of Jerusalem is noted in the Bible, with Pontius Pilate staying just north of the Roman fort chain, which fenced the area in like some ancient ghetto comprised of one of the richest and most powerful hubs of civilization in the ancient world, with its lead, silver mines, fertile lands, and rich people. Scottish Jerusalem was a powerful place. It is recorded that King David, on the run from Solomon, consulted a seer of Gad. Edinburgh has many names. I'll spell them because most people would not be familiar. Kaer, Care, Eden, which you know, Edn, Dun, Dun, Gad, Gad, and the other one is I'm not familiar with, which is Giudi hyphen Ail hyphen Guarth, which would be Goody Isle Garth or Gwerth. Of the Jews of Gad, Chonia, which is Chaonia, and the place of, which translates into the place of chaos. In 134 AD, the Jews claimed a new Messiah, which was Bar Kocheba, Cocheba, son of the star, and the chief rabbi anointed him king of the Jews. A coin was minted showing him with a crown, and on the reverse side was a thistle, the symbol of Scotland. And that goes on about the coin. So basically, the second half of the temple, but not the revision, was showing the pictures that where Moses went up and received the laws from which I never took Hebrew or ancient languages, but it's EHYEH, Asher, which I can pronounce, and EHYEH, which would be Oya, Asher, Oya, the mountains of Yah-Oya, and that is in northern Scotland, rather in Scotland Central. And then the picture will also show the Mount Cheviot Hills, which was the Sinai. Beyond the boundary forts near the palace, the Pilate family, Pilate, resides that place which is known as Epidamus, which is Epidamnus, which translates into beyond the damned. The tribe of Ilnya, which is Illlyna, the Silurians, Silurians, were brutally assaulted by the Romans in the ancient acts of genocide. And I mentioned about the genocide earlier. And the city of Edinburgh today remembers those ancient constructions by its very old underground workings, not the brickwork of the latter city fathers. Today, Edinburgh is still known for its 7 hills, the ancient lineage of the Aryans and Giants. The Earl of Orcus, which is Orcus, or Orkney today, descendant of Thule and Atlantis, which is keeper of the bloodline, and is what is known as Rosin Chapel. It may have been that the Templars brought vast treasure here to rebuild the Temple of Jerusalem and the city of Gad. And it may also be that the prophecy of Brannan Seer, which is Brahan, Ser, as Rome was, London is, and Edinburgh shall be, is part of the future destiny of mankind. In popular press, the Rosin Chapel is a repository of all the world's ancient artifacts. It held the Spear of Destiny, the Cup of Destiny, the Holy Grail, Excalibur, ancient scrolls, and vast treasure. That treasure I've already traced went over to North America. But in reality, the truth is far stranger than fiction. My recent activities, this is him, in Edinburgh, Scotland, has brought me a lot of attention. However, the MI5 department, MI5 in Great Britain, translates into our United States FBI, whereas MI6 in Great Britain translates into the CIA, one being domestic and one being global. Department of Parapsychology, Special Branch, all seems to be keeping tabs on me and my group as we continue to remit this information about shape-shifting reptoids and the true historic and global significance of Edinburgh, Scotland. The Draco bloodlines and the MI5 all seem to go together Edinburgh was a holy city at the time of Atlantis, and the remains have been carefully enshrined in Masonic secrets and buildings in and around Edinburgh. It is most likely that the original dispute that sparked the war amongst the Shining Ones, known as the Els, E-L-S, happened in Edinburgh, for that part of Scotland was once part of the Thule of Atlantis, when Atlantis expanded southward into the British Isles and into the Northern Irish Isles. The author, Common Beaumont, described the real significance in his 1946 book, Britain is a Key to World History, the rights to which are now owned by the CIA. All copies have been removed in 1947 and are an international esoteric temple called the Star Temple. Guess why? What is on the cards is probably that Scotland will again revert to being an ancient priest kingdom, and Edinburgh will again revert to being a holy city in this New World Order concept. The prophecies of the Brer Seer, as Rome was, London is, and Edinburgh shall be, and that of what Nostradamus of the political frost that existed between the Windsor dynasties and Scotland, the United States and UK agreement that the King of Terror, and that's in stanza 66 to 68, also predict the return of the elves, the angels of God, which, by the way, many people are seeing in and around Scotland. NASA is filming them. The pearls of great price, and the shining angels of stars being of the Magi. These stars or angels are interdimensional beings and witnesses and abductees alike that note that they have appeared in Edinburgh and elsewhere in Scotland several times, and also very up and close. The witnesses say that the angels of God return to pass judgment on the earth and its various human and non-human races. Also, let me give you an example, breaking from script, is that, and dialogue, that David, Jeff, do you know what, or Jesse, do you know what the Hebrew translation of the word NASA is? Either of you?
I do not know that one.
All right. In Hebrew, it translates into deceive or deceit thereof. So that gives you an idea who's running the world, okay?
So just before we continue, so obviously this is shaking some foundations, and as I've always given in my preludes in our conversations before, Chris, I'm not going to turn any of these conversations into a debate with you. For instance, because Jesse and I have a platform where we speak our truths quite often, and I don't want to turn this into a debate, but I will say a lot of the facts are very, very compelling, the 7 hills and things like that. So I would just have one question for you, and there's a couple people who want to call in, if you don't mind, and I'll invite Jesse to make a comment as well. But in your mind, Chris, why would they pull off such a deception? Was it about hiding the Ark of the Covenant?
It's a combination. It's a multitude. Basically, from my analysis and research, that I know that the Romans attacked, which were mainland Great Britain, attacked the Scottish. And what I may or may not have mentioned before is that Scotland is the home of the original home of the Israelite / Hebrew race, okay? And so I am of Scottish and British descent. Both parents, I have one of Scottish on my father's side, father, and British on my father's mother's side, and just the reverse on my mother's side. The father was British, and her father was British, and her mother was Scottish. And one of them is what is known as the royal bloodlines, but I've never traced it, and that is Russell, Russell. Anyway, going forward with the answer is that the Romans in British history, which has always been falsified, stated that they attacked Scotland twice, okay? We know them in ancient times. They go anywhere back to the Picts, and basically they lost twice, and you have two walls. You have the Hadrian Wall and a second wall, and they divided what is known as basically Scotland and Great Britain. And my point is that they actually, in Irish ancient history, they recorded the true history, and that is recorded by one of I consider the top leading alternative historian in the world today. His name is Michael Sarian, and the T is silent. He's originally Irish, but lives in Seattle, Washington, and he tours and lectures nationwide. And I've read massive amounts of his work, and it's absolutely uncomparable. But he stated that the British history, growing up in Ireland, he did massive research into ancient historical tomes in cathedrals, monasteries, churches, libraries, private collections, and he found the truths of life. And the point being is that the Irish history stated that the Romans actually attacked 3 times and then decided, since they couldn't defeat the Scottish, which were the original, as mentioned, Israelites and Hebrews, they moved their kingdoms into the Mediterranean. And that when I mentioned Professor Alan Wilson, I'll send you his 50-minute video, will convince anyone in this world that all of history has been completely written and controlled by Great Britain, unquestionably.
You send me that video and I will post it. I give you my promise. I will post it. Send it right after the show and I'll post it.
I will do that. I hope that you can actually play it like on a Saturday or something where you can just put it out to the public, let them know that they're going to be able to watch it without having to download it. Okay? Whatever. Okay. We'll do. So I think that it's a multitude. They could not defeat the Scottish, number one. Secondly, rather than trying to constantly lose thousands and thousands of troops in the process, that basically it was just easier to relocate and rewrite history, because history is always written by the victor and never the defeated. They have controlled history, and this goes all the way back. All history today is founded upon Great Britain, and prior to that, it's founded on the Roman and then the Greek. I have studied them in all of them, and Egyptian extensively, and this is a matter of fact. It's unquestionable. So it was a way of being able to still retain a kingdom and be able to, in their society, which has progressed into ours, we are in this debt-based society. We are founded upon what is known as a precious metal society and a precious gem, and that everything is for sale and for resale. And this is what has been entrenched and ingrained into the public's mind for countless centuries, even millennia.